Good times, good times, good times. Hola, bienvenidos. What's good? Welcome back. As you guys can see for the title, today we are doing the eyeshadow palette tag 5000. I think that's what it's called. Miss Iona here from Geek Chic Chic Geek. I always mix that up, but I know her name. She asked or tagged me to do this a while back, and the day that she tagged me was the day that I found out the bad news about my dog, and I have been backed up since. Backed up since with my videos. So today I'm finally doing the tag. I'm very excited about it. I have been watching it recently just to see what I'm getting myself into. Not that I have any palettes in similarities with other people. I think I have a very different array of what others have shown, so it didn't influence me. It just helped me to understand the questions a little bit more. Anything you need to know about Miss Iona will be down in the description box. Check her out. She is the creator of this tag. I get very excited when I see a friend here on YouTube have a tag catch on so well. It just makes me so happy to see one of us get the recognition that we deserve. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into this tag right about now. All right, here we go, you guys. So, a palette that I wore for a special occasion. The last special occasion that I have had, well, I shouldn't say I haven't had a special occasion because literally a few days ago, Mr. Man and I had date night, and it was a special date night because we never in the time that we've had children have anybody ever requested to take all three of our kids. This was the first time ever, so it was a special occasion, and I'm pretty sure it'll never happen again. But if I were to choose a really big special occasion, it was a wedding last year, and this is the palette that I did choose to wear. This is the Natasha Denona retro palette. For me, this is something that I love and enjoy, and I think about whenever I have a special occasion because it's very, to me, it's very feminine, very soft, very girly. I don't know, it just embodies that for me, and I feel beautiful in this palette. I am not a mauves person, mauves at all whatsoever. I've mentioned it many times on my channel, but this one just pulls at my heartstrings. It's just such a beautiful one. This is definitely my favorite mauves palette that I have, and I reach for it every time I have a special occasion. This is just a palette that I always think about whenever I want to wear it because it's not too much of anything. It's just perfect. All right, so repetitiveness. We all know that nowadays it's very difficult to come up with a color story in a palette that hasn't been done so, or you can't dupe already as it is, which helps our pockets. I'm not complaining. There's so many great products out there nowadays that it's rather easy to dupe things. So I took this question two different ways. So I'm going to show you two different palettes because I took it two different ways and I didn't know which way Iona meant it because I saw some people do it one way and other people do it a different way. So as far as a palette that I love, but it's repetitive in my specific makeup wardrobe, I would say the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 1 palette. This is repetitive. This color story is repetitive in my collection, but it is something I love. I just love. This color story is something that I always go for, no matter what it is. I could have a million of these. It's just, I love this color story. I love a palette that has that terracotta, chestnut, ginger, burnt orange kind of vibe going for it. I just love it. So for me, it's this one, and it's making my whole camera turn very, very orangey. So well, we're gonna put that one down. There you go. Now the other way that I took this was a palette that had colors in it that were repetitive. Not necessarily it's repetitive in my makeup wardrobe, but in the palette itself. And ColourPop does this a lot. So I chose this one, Fade into Hue. I was actually very disappointed with this palette as far as how repetitive it was on the eyes. This is all colorful and I love. I took out all the glitters and I put them somewhere else because they tend to go bad faster and they start to smell, and I don't like that. So I took it out of here and they leak sometimes. But as far as this palette, I felt like it was repetitive because even though you see that there's depth in here as far as the bottom row versus the top row, when you put these on the eyes, it doesn't really translate how you see it in the pan. It's a lot more sheer, a lot more of a undertone to it that just doesn't make it look this dark. For instance, this red one. This doesn't look like a red. It looks like a pink on your eyes that looks exactly like this one. So I felt like this was very repetitive. On the eyes, a lot of these shades will look the same on your eyes. So this is where I say this one ended up being repetitive. I do love the color story of this one, but it's just repetitive, man. I was hoping to love that more than I did, to be honest with you. Okay, a palette I got my money's worth. There is a palette that I always share in this type of category, which is my Lorac Pro 1. I still have it and I still do use it, and it is beat up. But I wanted to share a different palette that I feel like has taken its place, where I really beat this palette up. It doesn't look like I have because of the quality of the palette and how hard it is to hit pan on it. But I'm going to go with my So Jaded palette. I've reached for this so much when I first got it, and even so this year it has shown a lot of love to it. It doesn't look like it at all, and you guys know that ColourPop, it's very difficult to hit pan. I do have pan in this palette, but it took me forever. I tried to hit pan on another palette or shadow down here. It's just difficult, but this palette is something that I love to reach for, love to incorporate if I need something else, and it's just a palette that I'm always thinking of when it comes to ColourPop. It was so well made, so put together. I really, really do enjoy this palette. So out of all my palettes, I feel like this one got a lot of use. All right, so what do I feel like is an amazing deal? And this was difficult because I own quite a bit of palettes, but if I'm gonna break it down to somebody who's new or who is on a budget, these are the palettes that I would definitely 100% consider or recommend to them, because I feel like you do get an awesome deal as a package deal. There's other brands that I feel like are amazing quality, but at the end it'll cost you more money. So for me, it's any ColourPop large palette. I know it's a shocker to me because I'm not a large palette person, but any of the large palettes from ColourPop, great bang for your buck. You can get these as low as $20 and you're getting all of these shadows, and majority of the time, if not almost every single time, I feel like the larger palettes have such better quality than any other release that they do. It's just, they do so well with this. You get so many different color stories, varieties. They have warm tones, cool tones, pink tones, colorful tones, jewel tones. I mean, they've come out with so many cooler tones with the Aurora. So many different color stories in the large pan, and every time I get one of these, the quality is top notch. The variety is beautiful, and I reach for them all the time. I could own 3 large palettes from a cool tone, a warm tone, and a neutral tone. One of these, and I could have every single color that I could possibly want and not have to worry about any other palette to touch at all. I could get rid of everything else and just have 3 of these large palettes and I'm set to go. You get the shimmers, the metallics, the mattes with glitters. You get super shocks in them. I mean, they do so many different variety of formulas. This is really a good deal. Really good deal. If there's one thing out of ColourPop as far as palettes that I would recommend, it is their large palettes, because you will never go bad with them or get disappointed in them. The majority of the ones that I have tried and I have seen that other people have enjoyed have said the same thing. Alrighty, you guys, next question was a little bit difficult because I don't own many quads. I don't buy quads. I have mentioned this in the past that I just don't gravitate towards quads. I prefer a palette. I prefer to make my own singles, and my singles are typically in a Z palette that makes a palette. So I like variety. I like to bounce everywhere. So quads aren't the best for me. But if I were to choose a palette that I wish was larger, I would definitely go with this one. This is discontinued. It's no longer in existence. This is the Nomad Studio 54 quad, I should. These are those metallic-y, shifting, duochrome kind of shades. You can kind of see it with the way that I am lifting them. Maybe through this mirror, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I don't know. But these were beautiful. I really, really like this quad a lot. As you guys can see, I've used a lot of this, and it's still a ton left in here. This quad, if I could see it grow bigger, it would be beautiful with maybe a few pastels or maybe with some jewel tones or a few mattes. I mean, this would be such a beautiful palette to expand from, because these four colors, you can take them any way you choose, because you have such a variety in here. So I would choose this one to make it into a larger palette. Okay, bulky packaging is one of the worst things, and I have gotten rid of quite a bit of palettes, and I don't buy palettes at this point in my life unless I'm really, really wanting it due to the packaging. I'm not somebody who buys things for packaging, but when it comes to big, bulky, obnoxious packaging, you have deterred me from buying it. Trust me, a lot of palettes that I've seen from Glamlight that have come out, the main reason why I never bought them was because of the packaging. So I am going to go with an OG one that I still love. I still use, and the quality is still awesome on it, but I hate the packaging. I hate using the word hate, but I really, really do. That is the Urban Decay Heavy Metals. Remember this one? Look at this thickness. Look at this. Like, this is obnoxious. For me to store this, I have to really store it in a certain way, because even taking this off and taking out this palette is annoying. The mirror is in the middle, so I always had to cover the middle, but the actual quality of these shadows and the colors are just amazing. These are all that metallic-y, like the Patrick Ta kind of shadows. You could see it like right there. These are gorgeous, and they still, after all this time, still perform at such a beautiful level, at a level that you will see with palettes nowadays, but it's just the packaging drives me crazy, drives me nuts. And for that reason, sometimes I don't pull for it. Sometimes I forget about it because of the way that I am storing it. I wish that I could figure out how to depot this, but this is all metal. Like, this is gonna be serious for me to depot, so but I also don't want to get rid of it because I really do enjoy the quality. I have not purchased certain items or certain colors because I have this palette, and it's saving me money, even though I don't like the packaging. All right, guys, so showing you my singles in my dream palette. I'm not going to be one of those people like, oh my gosh, if I ever get the chance of doing it, I don't want to share it because somebody's going to steal my idea. Listen, Linda. Every idea has been out there. Every color story has been done. There is no possible way that someone can come up with a color story that hasn't been already done. But if I'm going to tell you guys what I'm going to do, it's not going to be in singles because these palettes have been already done. And this is something that I would take inspiration from and not steal ideas, but I would be inspired by these two palettes and to do my own version of my dream palette. So instead of singles, technically these palettes can be pulled out. They're magnetic, so I can make it into a Z palette, and I could have shown you guys my color story dream, and you would have never known that these were palettes. So the two palettes that I'm going to share, it's two different ones. I couldn't pick with either one. These are my top favorite palettes. I love them to death, and I would do a color story similar to these. First one would be the Good Sport palette by ColourPop. I love this. I love this. This is perfection to me. This is beautiful. There's nothing I would change about it. Seriously, you guys, I would take inspiration from this palette. Why not? It's beautiful. The other one that I would have done is the Pharaoh one. This is also no longer in existence. Beautiful color story. Absolutely love it. It is gorgeous. It's, again, perfection. Love it. So I didn't technically pull out singles, but these are all magnetic. I could have pulled them all out, put them together, and you guys would have never known the difference. That's how much color stories are out there. So these two palettes would be my inspiration for a dream palette, for that kind of thing. If not, I'd choose a simple, boring, warm tone palette, because you guys know that's my jam as well. These would be my colorful ones, and that would be my jam as far as a neutral one would be a warm tone palette with that terracotta, ginger, chestnut, burnt orange kind of colors. You know, that'd be me. That's what I would do. Okay, so to combine palettes, now this was a little bit difficult in a way, but I automatically thought of these two palettes because I have put them together, and I think that these would be a good match to put together. So the two palettes that I would combine if I could would be the Flower Beauty Jungle Lights palette, because one, it's all shimmer shades and it's not really a color story that's cohesive all on its own, but I would pair it with the ColourPop At First Sight palette by Raw Beauty Christy. I'd put these two together. And let me explain to you why I would put these two together. One, they're both jewel tone shades, so I think these would work really nice with each other. I think they would complement each other. And the main reason is because the two shimmer shades in here, I was never a fan of. This one I liked, I don't love. This one I can't stand because I don't do these bright yellows on my eyes. I just don't care for them. I don't like them. I don't like how they look on me. It's just not my jam. So if I were to take these two out, I'd incorporate it in these. Like this yellow, it's very light enough where I can make that work. But this one is just too gold yellow. I don't like those gold yellows like that. So pairing these two together is a dream. I have done it already, so I know that these two work. These mattes in this palette will look so beautiful with a lot of these shades in here. Jewel tones. I love jewel tones. If I'm going to pick colorful palette, it's going to be jewel tones, and these two would work really, really nice. So I would pair these two together. Okay, again, this was a very difficult question because I do not purchase large palettes. I haven't purchased a large palette with the exception of ColourPop's large palettes in a while because my inventory area, it's very sacred. I have only so much limited room. I have cut down on my storage, so I do not want to continue to add to more storage. So I've been very particular of what it is that I am bringing in. Large palettes I think twice about. So this large palette I feel like could have definitely been condensed. I love this palette. This is the Sample Beauty Equalizer Volume 2. I do love this palette. I do love the color story of it. But I feel like this could have been pared down. Like there was no need to have all these purples. There's no need to have all these like mattes, repetitiveness. These shimmers, some of them look similar on the eyes with just a tinge of a difference. So a lot of these I could get rid of and be okay with. I feel like this quad in this corner is unique. I feel like this bottom row, as far as your black and whites, are unique because you're getting a black and white shimmer, a black and white matte, which helps with the rest of the shades. But everything in between could have been pared down. So that's my only thing with this one. I do enjoy this palette. I have used it quite a bit, but I feel like I could have pared this one down just a tad. Last but not least, of course, what do I wish would be a face palette? I feel like this is a good question. I am a fan of face palettes. You guys know that. I love face palettes. I love panning face palettes. I'm good at panning face palettes. I'm committed to face palettes. I love that. It's just a one and done shot for me. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to open up 20 million different compacts to get my face done. It's all in one palette if I play my cards right. So this was a difficult question considering I am someone who loves to have face palettes. But there's one palette that I wish that would have had a face palette because I think it is so well made. It was so well done. They came out with quads, they came out with lip products, they came out with other different things, but not a face palette, which surprised me. And the quality of this brand is really good, and I think their face palette would have been phenomenal if they would have made one. And that's the Dose of Colors Friendcation palette. That's what I would have thought as far as the face palette. Look, this is a beautiful palette. I really, really do love it. And let me tell you, I have used this palette to death, and it looks like I have barely made a dent in here. I've used these mattes. So much, it looks like I have not touched this at all. I have tried to pan this palette on my own and it's just impossible. So knowing this and knowing the formula and knowing that I do own other Dose of Color products, this would have been such an awesome face palette. I think the quality would have been amazing, and I think that the shades that would have been chosen, I think would have been awesome. The highlighter, they came out with single highlighters that could have been on a face palette. Blushes, I feel like the blushes would have been beautiful earth tone, rosy, mauve, maybe like a peach in there. The bronzer, I think would have lasted us a lifetime because this one right here, ridiculous. Beautiful silky formula. I could picture it, and with this packaging I think it would look really, really nice. A quad face palette, maybe a trio, I think would have been great. That would have been just enough. So this would be the palette that I would say would have benefited from a face palette, considering also that it was with a collab with two very well-known YouTubers on here. I think it would have sold. That's just my opinion. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for your attention, for coming along and watching this. If you want to see more of these this tag, I will link some more people down in the description box. Miss Iona, thank you so much for tagging me and creating this tag. I think it was really awesome. You did a great job with this one. Made me think, and I am a lover of eyeshadow palettes. You guys know that. So anyway, anything, the questions you need to know, whatever the case may be, will be down in the description box. Thank you guys so much for watching, and more videos on the screen for your enjoyment. Until then.